Thank you, everybody, for bearing with us. And, this is a virtual conference, so, anything can happen, let's just say. So we're gonna just carry on, I think. So thank you for everybody who is being patient with us during this time when we're all trying to learn this technology and get things going. But welcome. You are in the BSP session. We're very excited that you're here. And I have put some things in the chat already. Up at the very top of your chat is a survey link that we would love for everybody to participate in after we are finished with this session. It's really important to us, the association, that we know what people are wanting and what their needs are. So please make sure you fill that out. I also did include some Facebook and Twitter handles if you are a tweeter. So we would love for you to tweet about everything that you're experiencing at the conference, and hopefully you're having a great time like the rest of us are. We're on the home stretch and we're pretty excited that it's gone so well. So what we'd like to say, or I'd like to say, is I'd like to give a big shout out to EDSI because they are sponsoring this workshop session. Without the workshop session sponsors and the stage sponsors and all of our sponsors, we would not be able to pull this conference off. So big shout out to all of them. They really have kept this thing going for us. So we really appreciate their support. Today you have, as presenters in this session, you have our 3 Bsp trainers, actually. So you've got the actual trainers right here in front of you. So we're really excited to have you guys here. I've got Mike Polzin, Janie McNabb, I'm sorry, I want to get your name of your company right. Your policy affiliate and talent strategist with Strategic Policy Consultants. Sorry about that. That's a big mouthful.
On purpose. Yeah.
A big mouthful. Dichondra Johnson, who is a CEO with DRJ and Associates. So I am going to turn this over to you guys. I'm going to watch the chat for questions, and as I see that we can take a break, or if you see a question that you want to address right away, we're going to cut right in and do that. Otherwise, I'm going to turn it over to you guys.
Great, thank you.
So I guess that would be me first. Is that it?
I think that's you, Mike.
It's you, Mike.
All right. I'm going to try to share the screen and hope that, well, that didn't work. So there we go. Can you see that screen?
Nope.
No, and now I lost everybody. So, well, I guess I will proceed, even though I can't see the screen and neither can you.
Mike,
somebody else can figure out.
Bringing it up.
Yeah.
Okay.
I have your PowerPoint.
Yeah, and we can see you, Mark, if that's okay, if that's any consolation. Smile, you're on camera now.
I am. I can't see anybody. So sorry about this delay here, folks.
No worries. We can tell some jokes while you wait. So, let's activate this chat. I see folks from all over. I see some of my Southeast Michigan family. Who's from up north? Do we have anybody who's above the bridge? They call us trolls, right? Is there anybody in the Upers joining us today? All right.
I saw you.
Okay, Amy. All right, and I see Yvette here, who is joining us from the Goodwill, Detroit. And we have Pancho Muhammad. I say hello to you, Pancho. And Jana Keen from Flint area. And Julie Freeheight, where are you from? Type where you're from. I'm just saying hello to all of you. And Amy Ames. And we know Lori in the house, Lori Spicer. So shout out, where are you from? In the chat box. Tell us where you're from. Let's introduce ourselves to you, and you introduce yourselves to us. I saw someone say I'm a Uper. Flintish. I love it. Okay, Stephanie Weiser, Sheboygan. Hey, Sheboygan. And Angela Barton. All right, Monroe, I see you. Oh, Bianca. Welcome, Bianca. With Athena Dumas from Oakland County, Pontiac. That's right.
Screen sharing.
Oh, Amy. We love you, Amy, up there. And then
sorry, Janie,
from Huron County,
we
have Detroit Employment Solutions. I can see your screen.
I just wondered if you, anyone
All right,
could see
Christian.
my screen. Is it sharing?
but I have my.
Great.
Okay.
Oh, Lapeer. Are we Lapeer?
Sure.
All right,
okay.
Mike, are we ready to get started? We shouted out.
I can just progress as you talk.
I believe so. So I apologize for the technical difficulties here. I'm not sure if the problem is the technology or Mike. I'm guessing it's probably Mike. So I will, again, excuse myself and just ask you to bear with me. So we're talking today about the BSP Training and Certification Program. And I think that the real question is, why do we do this, and what is it to do my job better? Real simply, why are we doing this? So some time ago, back in 2006, 2007, people from South Central Michigan Works, who was at that time Christine Quinn, the director, and Jim Laudenschlager, who was one of her special assistants, came to MSU and my colleagues to put together a curriculum to apply a demand-driven approach to the workforce systems processes. And the reason for that is traditionally workforce economic development, education, and business technical services and government from isolated from each other in silos. And the idea was to bring all these together to bear on the needs that businesses had. Now, if you remember back in 2007, that we were not here in Michigan, and there were I think a lot of the work system was layoff prevention, unfortunately, rapid response. So the BSP approach in focusing the demand of business was really to try to find out what businesses needed in order to survive and thrive, and be able to bring various partners to bear to address those needs. So the primary emphasis of a demand-driven system is on understanding and meeting business needs or demand, rather than blindly training or placing job seekers into jobs. I think this happens quite anywhere near as it did maybe years ago, but contracts were given to training providers based on, and they trained people for positions without really having to understand demand or need for those positions in that particular region. And as a result, they wound up not really connecting well with businesses because they weren't necessarily targeting what exactly the businesses. Time of a recession, which we were in back in 2007, businesses othentimes didn't need what they needed as other kinds of help. So the BSP approach, in partnering with others, provided a more comprehensive array of services to the employer and increased value-added capabilities of all of those different domains: the workforce development, economic development, education, business development services, and government professional organizations. So in the Michigan system, the BSP philosophy has helped to create a focus on the needs of business, that is their demand, and not what it is that we as a workforce system have available to supply them. So that's a big distinction that we have been making repeatedly. What we found is that this particular approach serves through needs and demands. Because you think about it, if there aren't businesses that are healthy, there's going to be fewer jobs available for job seekers. And if they aren't healthy or competitive, then it makes it more difficult for them to increase wages and benefit packages, makes it more difficult for them to provide these growth, and it makes it more difficult sometimes for them to make their workplaces a more desirable place to work. So for many of you, maybe whose job may put you in contact with the job seekers, you may wonder, well, why does focusing on business needs help my work with job seekers? And it's for those helping businesses to survive and thrive who actually are creating many more opportunities for job seekers in the short term and in the long run. So business solutions professional isn't services staff. It's also for career services or supply side staff as well. Also for administrators in your agencies as well. The framework positions within a demand-driven system. It focuses on a 5-stage structured process that can be applied to serving any identified customer. So that includes job seekers as the focuses on demand-driven discussion and best practices sharing across disciplines and across partnerships, and it promotes integrated demand-driven delivery of systems to dual customers, businesses as well as job seekers. So you might be thinking about, well, what is the role of BSP? And the role of a BSP is really that of a resource. They are resource. If the BSP does not have solution or asset needed by a company, then because they are part of a much larger network that includes a wide array of partners that can, in various ways, they can refer them to a partner who does. Some of you who maybe been training before this probably already, but since 2007, we have trained 39 cohorts of individuals that include well over 1,000 individuals across the state in applying this BSP approach. And about half of them have become certified over that period of time. So when you think about the wide and how this demand-driven works, it's very, very powerful in the way that it's able to help businesses to be able to grow and to be more competitive. That the BSP approach assists Michigan businesses to retain workers, to create jobs, to operate competitively in the global market, companies in a wider range of situations, growth situations, retention or layoff prevention situations, attraction situations, as well as even in those situations in which closure is been announced or if not imminent. This is really a key element of the BSP philosophy, and that is our mantra, which is let no encounter with a business go to waste. Basically what that means is that whenever we are talking with a business, whether it is trying to help them to find the right person for the job that they have available, or whether it is addressing a growth situation, it's imperative to ask a little bit more about the situation, to find out what are the facts involved in creating the immediate need that you're there to address. That's why let no encounter with a business go to waste. We can always ask the question, why? If there's an opening for a job, why? Why is that there? Is it there because someone left? Is it because you're growing and you need some additional staff? Is it because you've got technology? It could be any of a number of reasons why even that simple particular to be in place. But depending upon the answer that the business provides, it could suggest that there may be other needs or other resources that could be helpful to them to deal with that particular situation, and maybe other situations in the future. So we have, we boiled down the elements of the BSP approach to, and I'll talk briefly about each of those in a minute. The first is asset knowledge, knowing what resources are available to help businesses. Business relationships, that's really key, because we've often found they're not eager to talk to somebody that they don't know. But if you have a relationship with them, which you can develop in a number of different ways, then they're more likely to be able to develop confidence in your ability to be able to help them and to maintain the confidence that's needed in order for their competitiveness. Another element is network. Very, very important. It's not just having contacts with people in a variety of settings around in your region, in your domains and other agencies, but it's also about developing your own knowledge and skills to be able to be more helpful. In fact, one of our guest speakers, who will be showing in one of the video clips, talks about that briefly. The other two elements are partnerships, and partnerships are very, very important, because we oftentimes will find that the needs of the business cannot just be met by workforce development, but also need or have opportunities for other particular service providers. And partnerships allow us to be able to do that. And the final is the structured process that we use to be able to find out what business, act on what we find out. So assets. In the business solutions professional training, you will learn to be able to talk about what assets that your organization can provide to businesses are, and what assets can be provided by your partners. We make it really clear that we don't want you to do something that you're not trained to do. That is, if you're in workforce development, we're not asking you, and nor do we want you to become an economic developer. But we do want you to know what kinds of services an economic developer has available to business, so that when a need arises, you're able to identify that and to contact them at the appropriate time. Business relationships, about creating and maintaining productive relationships with employers. You can do that in a variety of ways. Sometimes it's just by providing them with services over a period of time. Sometimes it's also by being a part of civic or community organizations or business-related organizations in your community, where they come to know you a little bit better, and then are more comfortable in sharing things about your business with when the need arises. We work to formulate strong partnerships to provide comprehensive, coordinated solutions. Because of the varied needs of businesses, we know that the nation can provide business solutions to all of their challenges. That's why it's very, very important to develop strong relationships with others in economic development, in education, business technical services, and in governmental agents that work to assist businesses to grow and practices. Networks, already a little bit, a strong partner network with an adaptive and responsive approach. It's also, I believe, it's about continuing to knowledge about what is currently being done, what could be done, what is being considered in workforce development and in economic and in other related activities. And finally, the 5-step structured process, which is very key. It's a very simple process. It's a process consulting model that we use, and we've been using for actually since we began. And that is entry. The first step is building rapport with the employer, so that they will share with you those things that are really underneath what are the reasons why with them in the first place. fact-finding. That's discovery. It is trying to understand more about what is going on so that you can focus on the needs that they have and bring the partners to them that are needed in order to particular situations. Solutions design is coming up with options for the business to consider to move forward. These are recommended. These are not ones that they have to do. The business's choice as to how it proceeds. And we have a process for implementing the solutions that are arrived at, figuring out how to make it happen, who's responsible, what the timeline is, that sort of thing. And then follow-up, satisfying the customer and finding out what could possibly be improved the next time you work with them, needs that they might have. And in dealing with Bsp, what we have, one of the most important questions that they can ask a business when they're dealing with them is why? Why is it that you want what you want? What is it that is going on that creates this particular need that you have? That helps deep conversations, which can lead to understanding maybe a deeper set of needs that could be critical to improve their performance, improve their competitiveness, and their growth and survival. So quickly, the programs and tools that you might learn in a Bsp. What are the range of training programs and funds? Address gaps. I just actually read and posted yesterday on LinkedIn an article from Brookings Institute about maybe it's not always talent gaps that we have, opportunity gaps, and how to address those. Investigating and identifying the root cause of problems. How to put together a talent recruitment and training proposal. What are some of the things to keep in mind when working with you in a unionized facility? What are options that businesses have when you find and their potential for layoff or close? What are some additional business solutions, tools, and resources, and how to obtain labor market information? So these are, this is really a very shorthand overview of why we do the Bsp approach, what value it adds, not just for employers, but also the value that it adds to job seekers, and hopefully how it adds value to you as you go about trying to do your work.
Okay. Well, thank you, Mike. Any questions so far? That's just a quick overview, kind of a foundational information for everybody.
Mike, that was such a great overview. All the BSPs, that was your nice review. If you remember all of our yes, fact finding, entry, all of these things, right?
Right.
Great overview, Mike. Thank you.
So the next thing we want to share with you after that kind of background is Dichondra and I did some interviews that we recorded with a couple of folks who are out there in the field doing this work. And we specifically wanted to talk to them about how are they using this model? How is it helping? And how are they applying it during the time of COVID? And so we're going to share some clips with you from those interviews. But just to kind of set it up, I'll tell you the person I interviewed, her name is Jessie Mitchell. She is a business development manager with the Michigan Economic Development Corporation. She covers regions, prosperity regions 2 and 3 in the northern lower peninsula. So it's of 21 counties, which is a pretty amazing geographic area to cover. But she shared some great information about how she's using the Bsp model. So just to give you that background on who she is. And Dichondra, you want to share who you interviewed?
Yes, I had the pleasure of interviewing Colin Mays, who is the Director of Economic Development for the City of Centerline. But for all of you Simca family, you guys know Colin. He's one of your recent colleagues who worked a long time to help with apprenticeships and other types of business development programs. So Colin has been in his role for about a year or so now. And it was great to have the opportunity to connect with him as an economic developer at a local level.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, so can you see my screen now?
I am seeing your screen. I'm seeing the video.
Excellent. Okay, so just to start out this particular clip, what Jessie is talking about is really about identifying business needs, especially right now. Like, we kind of had a handle on things before COVID threw all that out the window, because there was a pretty common needs around talent when before COVID hit. But at this point, oh, you know what? I don't think when I hit share, I don't think I said to share the audio. So I am going to quickly go back here and make sure I check that box. There we go. Would not have done much good to show you a video without the audio.
But if we wanted to see who was really good at lip syncing and who was good at reading lips, we could have really
that would
yes.
Good luck. Okay, so we're going to share this with you from Jessie Mitchell. What are you hearing from companies right now in terms of what their needs are? And maybe think about, how that has changed before COVID and after.
So, going into COVID, the visits were much more similar. They had more similarities. Now, I think really the needs really vary from business to business, and the solutions are not one size fits all. The only way to know is to ask. So the interaction with a variety of businesses, it's just continual, and it's with those partners. We're working together to figure out what those needs are and identify potential solutions. In my experience since COVID, the platform for fact finding really needs to be as convenient and as efficient as possible for the businesses, just so that they're able to accommodate during this time of crisis.
So that, I thought, was just an interesting way to talk about this. Is this model is moldable, that when you are working with businesses, they are they are in the midst of this craziness. And so while you're still doing fact finding, you're still designing solutions and following all these BSP processes. You're just having to make it work for the business.
Great. I am going to introduce our next clip, and thank you so much for sharing that. It's really critical that you know how to identify where the business needs are, especially right now. So I felt Jessie did a really good job of covering that. I'm going to talk a little bit more about resources. And in this clip, Colin Mays describes how he has identified and connected with local businesses and resources. He shares his process on how he facts finds to find those individuals that he needs to provide resources to the businesses in his community, as well as the other assets within the buckets of his colleagues in workforce and higher ed, etc. So enjoy this clip.
And now that we have evolved into a new era, right? What resources have you now used to support your businesses during COVID? And there's so much information out there, Colin, and there's a lot of misinformation too, and overwhelming for businesses. What did you do to kind of vet those resources, learn about those resources, and kind of your own investigative reporting, if you will, to not only find those resources for businesses, but also to kind of keep your own repository of information?
Sure. So as you know, Dichondra, this has been very unprecedented times. In the past 100 years, we've never lived through a pandemic. So I think, this is extremely new for everybody. But what I will say is that since the pandemic has started, I have been able to secure about $600,000 of grants for the city of Centerline to work on projects to improve the city. I was also able to work with our local businesses here
to help them fill out applications for various grants through Macomb County, through the state of Michigan, which has totaled $140,000. So
Wow.
we've been very busy here. And of course, like you said, there's a lot of information. How do you keep up with it all? And I think the best answer for that is that you just do the best that you can, trying to spread information to all of our businesses. One of the things that I did to highlight our local businesses when I first started was I started a new initiative called Business of the Month. And basically the premise of that is that we would highlight one of our local businesses here in Centerline, because we're a pretty small city. We're 1.7 square miles, but we have so many small businesses, so many mom and pop businesses that we want to bring exposure to, we want to bring attention to. So having the Business of the Month really allowed us to do that, to highlight our businesses. In addition to that, I just hosted our inaugural business resource open house. And how that worked is basically we would have the city of Centerline, so myself, a representative from Macomb County, MEDC, Michigan Manufacturing Technology Center, a U.S. Department of Labor, Michigan Works, and our local community college, as well as the Small Business Administration, that would all come out and meet with our local employers if they had any employee issues, if they wanted to maybe take people to go get trained, if they wanted to start an apprenticeship program, if they wanted to learn more about any additional resource that the city has, any type of tax credit that we would have, or Macomb County tax credit that's available, the state of Michigan, MEDC. So of course, given COVID, unfortunately, it wasn't able to be as spectacular as I would have liked, but we still had a lot of information out, and those that were able to attend, just a few in at a time, were able to grab information and take it back to their business. And I think it was impactful. And once we get past COVID, we'll definitely be doing something like that again.
Dichondra, I think you're on mute.
I said, Colin, Colin is great. And I just love to listen to him. You know, he talked about a number of assets in that, right? He talked about working with the local MEDC reps. He talked about his business development colleagues. He talked about all of the different entities. He spoke a lot about resources that he's bringing into his community. And so this is exactly what we're talking about when we say utilizing the resources through your assets, through your relationships, and growing those relationships so that you can maximize the assets and resources that they offer.
I loved the idea of doing like a resource fair almost, to invite companies in, especially right now when they just have so many questions. It was an innovative way to bring all those resources to the companies.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And I liked the fact that what are affect a lot of our businesses in this area, and trying to look for ways that he can be able to address those.
Yes.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yes. Definitely. And Centerline is small, you know, it's just really small, guys. I think, what did he say, Janie? 1.7 square miles?
Yeah.
1.7 square miles. That sounds like, okay, maybe that's easy, but actually that's really, really hard, you know, for an economic developer to carve out their niche and identity in that small space. So kudos to him for being innovative in some of the most difficult times.
Sure.
Passing it back over to you, Janie.
Well, are you next with the next clip? Is about networks.
Oh, yeah.
So Colin talks again about that.
We're back to Colin. See, Colin's a superstar, guys. For those who used to work with Colin, you already know this. So in this clip, Colin talks about maintaining networks and what does he do to cultivate his network, how his network is based on trusting relationships. And he's going to talk a little bit more about that is really a true foundation to relationship building in the BSP model. Is how do you start out to cultivate those relationships and maintain them, and then trust that when you hand off client, if you will, to the other asset that is your other client, that they're going to be taken care of at the same level that you are, right? So it's a lot of trust there. So we're going to talk about a little bit more, and Colin gives you a nice explanation.
just from your perspective, how do you manage your relationships and for long term? So we talked about trust and we talked about relationship building, but what are some of your biggest key words of advice, if you will, for those who are working in this field to really maintain the relationships across? So no matter where you go in your career as you're a BSP, you still have those relationships. Talk about how you've been able to do that across your career.
Sure. So I think the biggest thing that I could say, and the biggest piece of advice that I would provide to anybody that is in workforce development or even in economic development, is to have the ability to just simply reach out, send an email, but really care. I mean, really care about the person that you're connecting with, about the business, understand the mission of the business, and really take an active approach to reaching out to them. I mean, people can tell when you're not genuine and you're not sincere, but really take a approach to better understand what their needs are. And when you do that, you're going to be able to, again, I hate to keep saying it, but cultivate that relationship. Because if you're reaching out to them, you're checking in with them, just to say a simple hello, you'll never understand how much that can impact them and how that'll be with you for a long time.
The little things, right? It is the little things. It's really easy to reach out to somebody when you need something, right? It's really easy to do that, but takes another level to just reach out to your colleagues and see what you can do to support them. And I think that Colin has embodied that in his work. I know I've tried to do that. Janie, Mike, it's important to maintain those relationships in a genuine way, because when it becomes a project and it's difficult, you want to know that you have some people in the trenches with you that have your back. And that's really what the BSP model is about. It is really building that community and that family. And I can say there's a number of people on this feed right now that we've all connected because of that BSP. And no matter where we go in our careers, we still have that connection and that support as various assets that we fall into as we grow in our careers. So I'm so happy Colin was able to really hit to the heart of caring. And that's what we need right now, especially in these difficult times, is for people to care and to really take this seriously, the work that they do, in a very organic way.
Absolutely. And it really shows the heart of, the demand-driven philosophy being, what are the needs of the business? I think we say that term often, like we're responding to business needs. We're driven by the needs of the business. Well, in order to truly determine what those business needs are, you have to have a relationship that reveals them, because a lot of times they're hidden. So that trust and that genuine connection is what makes all the difference. Okay, so I'm going to share another clip from Jessie, who talks about how she has applied the BSP model and that process during this time of COVID. And Elizabeth, thank you for letting me know that there was an echo. So I am trying to remember to mute myself when I switch to the video clip. So here. So can you give any examples without breaking confidentiality, of course, of the BSP model being applied during this time?
So, I think this model really applies to every interaction that I'm having with businesses these days. As COVID has touched every industry, I find myself working with businesses that typically I don't work with. So establishing rapport is even more crucial, as is the fact-finding piece and being able to ask the questions that get to what the issues are. Really, I think the most important piece is being able to provide solutions and information quickly. However, it's very common and okay to say, I don't know, but I'll get back to you with that information. And just the key to that is following up and finding out which partner has that program, and then getting back to the business with their information that they requested.
Yeah.
Awesome. She said the key word, follow up, right?
Yeah.
That is so important. You can gather all of that information, but if you don't bring it back and actually follow through and follow up, then you've lost that relationship oftentimes. And
Right. And it lost the trust that we just talked about being so important. Right.
Exactly. Yeah. And potentially even the trust and relationship of the folks that provided you the information, because now they want to know what happened, and you don't want the business to think that it's the asset that you referred them to that has fallen down, right? When communication follow-up is so important.
Absolutely. Yeah. Okay, so one last video clip for you. This is back to Colin.
So we are wrapping it up with Colin, and we talked, we were able to share, Janie will tell you, it was really hard to edit the video with Colin. He had so many nuggets of goodness. I wish that we could have just done a session just to play all of our videos in full length, because they really, they said everything that we could have said, but just in really giving it real light. But in the closing of this, I asked Colin this question that I thought was important for our newer folks in the workforce space, or in any of the assets that we talked about, workforce development or business development or higher ed or wherever you're sitting. We wanted to ask him this question because he knows a lot, right? And so Janie, take it away. We won't even steal any more thunder for what he has to say.
Is there anything before we close today that you would like to say to the person that is sitting down there in this session that may have just started at Michigan Works or some other workforce development agency, in the last month or two? Sometimes we have folks coming in, they're really, really new and fresh to this whole conversation. What is that one thing that you would want to share with them to help them get ready and feel comfortable in this new world that they have walked into? Let's say they don't even have a workforce background. They don't have economic development. They don't come from higher ed. What would you say to that person who is in this session as we close out today?
I would say two things. I would say read a lot. Find out what your colleagues are reading. Find out what your boss is reading and read that. So you always kind of have a knowledge and understanding of what they're facing, so that you can have a greater appreciation for the role that you play on your job. I would say that was very key in my career, was that I would understand what my boss was doing, what their day looked like, and then that way I had a greater appreciation in terms of what my role was with the organization. I would also say take the initiative to really go out there and meet people. You never get anywhere if people don't know you. And it's important to be able to go out and make those meaningful connections, build those relationships with your businesses and also with your colleagues. Really take the time to, if you're a new workforce developer or even a new economic developer, you have a lot to learn in a very short amount of time. So take as much time as you can, pick as many brains as you can to understand really what the job is, understand what your objective is, and to make it your own. We're all kind of learning as we go. So have fun and make it your own and give it your all.
That was awesome. I mean, what else do you have to say after that?
Exactly.
Yes,
And,
make it your own.
I asked Jessie the same thing,
and
she basically said, pick up the phone. You've got to reach out. And the thing I love about, especially the way Colin talked about it, I'm not sure what that music is, but I love the way Colin talked about it. It is really good advice, not just for new BSPs, but for anybody. So any of us, we're all continuing to have to reach out, continuing to have to maintain and cultivate those relationships.
Yes. Yes. Mike, what are your closing thoughts? Mike has been a instructor for BSP for a number of years, and he is a wealth of knowledge and information. I was a part of one of his cohorts, and so I want you to tell us, Mike, what do you think in closing out from all of these videos that you've heard?
Well, I think that they really did capture and incorporate all 5 of the elements of the BSP approach. They talked about developing business relationships. They talked about knowing about assets and recognizing that they don't have to know everything. They just have to know people who do know everything within their domain. Effective partnership, networking, and using a structured process where you engage in fact finding. I mean, they did all those things, and it was I thought it was really reinforced what it is that we've been talking about for a long time.
Yes. It's, I like to hear professionals talk about things that in theory, it sounds, it can be a mind crunch when you're thinking about all these principles and like, how do I remember to do this? But when you get into the practice of working in the BSP model, it becomes easy and it almost becomes necessary. And if you don't do those steps, you find that you feel like you're missing something somewhere. And so, a lot of times people want to move to solution and they don't want to fact find. And I think that is one of the most important parts, is just figuring out where are we all at in the landscape before we even do anything, and just slowing down. But the BSP model is something that you can take into any job and career. So even if you move on out of workforce into some other aspect of government or community work or corporate work, whatever you do, this BSP model is transferable, and it will provide you with the backbone and the framework to be successful serving your clients, as well as working with your partners within the landscapes that you serve.
Great. So I think
I agree, and I would say that.
Go ahead, Mike.
You go, Janie.
Well, I was just going to transition to the next segment where we were going to maybe ask the
Sure.
audience a few things. So did you want to talk about that, Mike?
Sure. Yes. So we first of all, we want to know if any of you have any questions, and if you do, please post them in the chat, and we'll get to them in the time we're remaining. But wanted to ask, some of you are actually already seasoned BSPs that are in this workshop, and you may have some thoughts to add to this, but I would like to hear from people who may not have gone through the training. And so what do you anticipate, or what do you find to be the biggest challenges in applying a demand-driven work that you do? I'd like to hear from anyone. Don't be shy.
And just to let you know that if someone does want to be on screen, they can request, and I can let them in that way. Otherwise, they can post their question in the chat, and you guys can answer the chat that way too, whichever.
Yeah, that's great.
So it looks like we have a response from America, I believe I'm saying this right, America Richardson, and she said her biggest challenge is connecting with employers during COVID. That is definitely can be a bit difficult right now because people are not there. So let's talk a little bit about that. What are some of the strategies that we think we could utilize to help us connect with employers? I'm going to ask the question to some of our seasoned BSPs out there, because I know that you guys are there, right? So I see another question. My biggest challenge is about finding workers for employers. So both, right? So I have some thoughts about that, but I would like to open that up for discussion if possible. Anyone would like to take that question? Some of our seasoned BSPs in the conference right now.
And I am hearing from other BSPs around the state that connecting to employers right now is extremely difficult. And I think there's some aspect of, the employer community tends to think of Michigan Works as well, that's just how I hire talent. And right now I might not need talent, or I might be more focused on some other aspect of my business. And so they're kind of not responding and so forth. So how do we open the door to be that, that solutions provider where we can connect them with others, and then curious about partners in other domains, the economic developers and education providers and so forth. If they're having struggles connecting, maybe they could open the door for some partners who aren't able to get in. That would be extremely helpful.
Yes, definitely. I think that's definitely just from my own experiences. I see some comments about virtual job fairs and utilizing technical platforms. And I just from my experience during and post COVID working with clients and entities, we had in our region, Schoolcraft had a grant that was like amazing grant that I'm sure everybody would have snapped up if they had the knowledge of it, right? So we used our BSP network. Simca reaching out to me saying, hey, do you have clients that might be wanting to participate in a job fair? And higher ed reaching out. Hey, do you have clients that might need resources right now? Clients reaching out. Hey, is there somebody that could use, our space right now? And so there are a number of, again, using this BSP model and keeping those relationships, that is one way to help you. Pick up the phone and call your colleagues in the other assets. Your economic developer contact might be able to help you find the employers because they're going on retention visits still, possibly, or they may be doing virtual visits that you guys can Zoom together. And so I would suggest definitely connecting with the local economic developers as well, like the Collins of the world, right? Colin knows where it is. The Jessies of the world, they know where businesses are. They also may know a little bit more. I think your higher ed partners are to help you find that talent right now. There are students that are still looking for work. There are still people in training programs and apprenticeship programs that need employment. So just thinking outside the box and tapping those other assets. When your well runs dry, maybe their well is full.
Absolutely. So we have Amanda shared one of her more establishing rapport or relationship building tips. Is she one of the businesses she works with had a ribbon cutting, so she sent a congratulations card. That's a nice little touch to really connect with. Amy in the UP worked with the EDCs who were coordinating the Michigan Restart Grant, and they actually had a whole committee of Michigan Work staff, local EDCs, others, to score the grants. And so by working together, they were connected to those employers all across the whole UP.
I like something that Ashley and I believe it's Ashley said that some of these chats are coming in so quickly. I love it. I like what they were saying about just being able to listen and provide resources. That fact finding is so important right now. Those surveys, they're talking about doing surveys, surveying and finding out where people are. You can't assume what resource that you have right now fits their needs. Maybe you have to be adaptive. And only way to know that is with some fact finding and surveying. I like that was going on. And I like that there's folks doing outreach to new employers. And I think that this is great. So there's some really great suggestions.
Karen, I love it because you really can't be shy when you're a BSP, right? You got to reach out. You have to make those connections. So just making and knowing, getting to know the office assistant or receptionist, those gatekeepers, they're really important.
Yes.
And so forth.
Yeah.
So when
I saw someone mention something about the chamber. I am at the chamber member, guys. And let's just say the chamber has been really great. So that's another great resource is your chambers. Yes, Mike.
I think a couple of people have mentioned that and it isn't always what you have available that is what an employer needs. So I think it's really important that you reach out to them when you're making a call, when you have a conversation, is to make it clear to them that you're a part of a much larger network that includes not just workforce development, but also economic technical assistance providers that can help businesses with different business adjustments to their business plan, or looking at different markets that they might looking at 4 different. Those things don't go away. Those things are still relevant to the times that we're in, and diversifying what it is that you do for a business is oftentimes what it's going to be necessary for them to be able to survive. So making it clear that it isn't just you, it isn't just the job seekers that you're there representing, but you're also representing a wide range of other asset providers that are available to help them if you can find out what.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
And that's why you ask why.
That is so key and critical.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah. You have to ask why.
So
yes. You're ready to serve them up a milkshake and they really want tea. That's not helpful, right?
So I think a couple comments around the difficulty in finding job seekers and talent for businesses right now. There are a lot of jobs out there still, and it seems like the labor pool has shrunk even more, which is so strange because there are just fewer people actually applying even than there were before under such low unemployment numbers. And there are a variety of reasons for that, but I think a lot of what we're seeing happening around the state is really crucial. There's virtual job fairs, there are virtual interviews, Michigan Works and other agencies are really being the intermediary to provide a platform for companies to connect with talent. But I think one thing that's really crucial that sometimes isn't front of mind is connecting with the talent side of the house. If you're at Michigan Works and you're in the business solutions, business services realm, your conversations and your connections with your colleagues who are working with job seekers are even more critical than they ever have been, because the folks that they do have calling, that they're working with on a caseload, they're helping with, they are working tirelessly to help them overcome barriers. Again, lots of new barriers with COVID, but getting them job ready. So that is a really important pipeline for you, and to really understand where they're coming from and what's happening with them is really crucial. So something to keep in mind. And then if you're at another agency, an economic developer or so forth, to reach out to the education providers and the Michigan Works and other entities that are working directly with job seekers.
Absolutely. I like that Amy from the UP added in social media. Okay, that has been our friend, even right now in this session. I see that we have been joined by 71 individuals. That's what social media can do, right? I don't know if we were in person, if all 71 of you would have jumped in or jumped out or jumped in our classroom. But the fact that we can be together and utilize our social media, our Facebook pages, that is excellent. And that's a great suggestion to stay connected no matter where you are and what asset you represent.
So we've got, I think, 1 minute left. Mike, I feel like you are our champion here, and I would love to hear some parting thoughts from you.
Oh, gosh, nothing but pressure here, Janie. So,
I'm
one of the things that I'm really become impressed with over the last 6 months, but is what I've seen and heard about people's creativity. I've watched these video clips that Cedric Entertainer does. They've had this on a few times on Friday night, but it's my wife and I look at each other and we say, "My God, they're just incredibly creative people that are doing things." We're all creative people too. You are maybe more than I am, but we have to. This is a time that calls for us to do to really think differently about what it is that we have to do, not by throwing out what we've already done, because we know that a lot of the things that we've done before have worked very well. But if they're not working, we have to be starting to think, well, what else can we do? So that we have partners. We're in this alone. We heard of that a lot when the pandemic and the shutdown and all of that was going on, maybe in the first couple of months. We don't hear it quite as much as anymore, but it's still very present. We're all in this together, and we should utilize our creative capabilities together sometimes if we can't address those problems that we're having all by ourselves. We are this is a very crime, but it also is a time that provides us with opportunities too, opportunities to rethink how it is that we do some of the things that we do. And I, for one, am looking forward to see how you all and your colleagues are going to be able to address this. You're doing incredibly important work, and don't forget that. Don't forget that what we do, trying to keep people's livelihoods, keep people maintaining their livelihood and being able to keep their bodies and souls together is really very, very critical, very, very important. And I'm glad that you're all there doing that, and we still have a lot of work to do. So there's going to be plenty of opportunity for us to exercise that creativity.
Thank you. Before we close out, can I just put a shameless plug in? If you have not already considered becoming a BSP, it's one of the best decisions I think I have made, along with all of the other accolades and credentials that I have gathered. This is one of the best credentials to have. And so if you have not jumped on Michigan Works Association .org's website and checked out the next dates for BSP, I hope you do that.
Thanks, Dichondra. I was going to actually say the same thing, that our next cohort is officially in October. All the information is on our website. This is cohort 40. It will be the first cohort that will have continuing education units attached to it. So we are newly accredited and super excited about it. And my shout out goes to Mike Polzin about that. He was fearless and helped me through that whole thing. So super excited about that. And our class is filling up. It will be totally virtual. So hopefully we won't have these kinds of technical issues. Yes. Yeah. It's been exciting and challenging, and thank you guys for sticking with us this whole time with the challenges. But we still have a little bit left of our conference. So please make sure you stay around for the general session at the end, and, get in with the exhibitors and the expo hall and do some networking before the day is over with. Thank you again, you guys, for presenting and hanging out with us, and enjoy the rest of the conference.
Thanks, everyone. Good to see you all.
Thanks. Thanks.
Have a great
Bye-bye.
day. All right, be safe out there. Wear those masks.